Excuse me, miss. This section is for paying passengers. The voice cuts through the cabin, hum like a blade. Cassius Whitmore, seat 6A. First class doesn't bother lowering his tone. His Rolex catches the overhead light as he gestures toward the economy curtain where a woman in a faded gray hoodie is settling into 12C. Iris Caldwell doesn't look up. She just pulls the seatbelt across her lap. Two smooth motions, pull, twist, check, tension, and clicks it shut. The kind of precision only a pilot knows. Her worn sneakers are tucked under the seat in front of her. Her jeans have a patch near the left knee stitched with thread that doesn't quite match. Melody Kane, the lead flight attendant, steps over with her tablet. Sir, Miss Caldwell is confirmed in 12C. Is there a problem with your seat? Cassius doesn't even glance at the screen. Look at her. That hoodie's from Goodwill. Those shoes belong in a dumpster. He raises his voice just enough for the rows around him to hear. I paid $18,000 for this ticket. I expect a certain caliber of passenger. 3 rows up, Gianna Frost travel influencer 7B pulls out her phone. She angles the camera toward Iris, zooming in on the frayed cuffs, the scuffed sneakers, the faded backpack stuffed under the seat. Her whisper is loud enough to carry. Flying premium economy in rags, someone's definitely gaming the system. The cabin lights flicker, once, twice. A service card in the galley rattles hard against its lock metal, clanging like a warning bell. Iris's eyes flick to the overhead panel. She counts 1, 2, 3 seconds. Her right hand rests on the armrest fingers, drumming a quiet rhythm. Not nervousness, calculation. The businessman, in 10A, leans toward his wife. Did you see that lights shouldn't flicker like that? Iris mutters under her breath, barely audible. Electrical fluctuation. Generator load imbalance. No one hears her. Cassius is still talking louder now, emboldened by the murmurs around him. Melody, I want her moved. This is unacceptable. Do you know who I am? I own properties in 6 states. I will not share this cabin with... The plane lurches. Just a small jolt, barely enough to spill coffee, but Cassius stumbles, grabs the seat back in front of him. Iris doesn't move. Her feet are braced. Her core is stable. The posture of someone who's felt worse turbulence and lived to tell about it. 14 rows back, a 70-year-old man named Griffin Walsh nudges his wife. That's not a civilian reflex, he whispers. Look at her. That's military bearing. But Cassius doesn't notice. He's too busy straightening his tie, glaring at Iris like she's personally responsible for the bump. The captain's voice crackles over the PA. Folks, this is Captain Davis Mitchell. We've got a smooth ride ahead to Salt Lake City, 2 hours, 10 minutes. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight. Iris closes her eyes. She doesn't relax. 23 minutes from now, when Captain Davis's heart stops and the storm tears the radar apart, no one will care about her thrift store hoodie. No one will care about the dog tag buried under her shirt, stamped with a call sign the Air Force declared dead 3 years ago. They'll only care that she's the one person on this plane who knows how to fly through hell. The boarding door seals with a hydraulic hiss. Iris leans her head against the window eyes, half closed like she's been awake for 36 hours straight. Which she has. The glass is cold against her temple. Outside, ground crew in neon vests disconnect the jet bridge, their movements efficient and rehearsed. She watches them, the way most people don't, tracking hand signals, noting the tug driver's hesitation before he releases the tow bar, the way the wing walker positions himself 2 feet farther out than standard procedure. Small things. Things that tell a story if you know how to read them. The overhead bin above her rattles as the plane begins to push back. Without thinking, Iris reaches up, presses the latch with one hand firm, precise, and the rattling stops. It's a flight attendant move. Muscle memory from a life she's not supposed to talk about anymore. Griffin Walsh, seat 14A, is still watching her. He's 72. Navy retired, and he's flown enough to recognize the difference between a nervous passenger and someone who's been in the cockpit. He leans toward his wife, keeps his voice low. That woman, the way she just secured that bin one-handed, didn't even look up. That's not civilian reflex. His wife, Margaret, glances toward Iris. Maybe she's a flight attendant. Griffin shakes his head. Nah, flight attendants don't sit like that. Look at her posture. Straight back feet, flat shoulders, squared. That's military. Margaret frowns. In those clothes, Griffin doesn't answer. He's seen enough veterans struggling after discharge to know that service doesn't always come with a pension that covers rent. Up in first class, Cassius is still muttering to Desmond Carver, the hedge fund manager in 5C. I'm telling you, Des Airlines are letting anyone on these days. Standards are gone. You used to be able to trust that premium cabins meant premium people. Desmond nods absently, scrolling through his phone. Mm-hmm. Sure, Cass. The plane straightens on the taxiway. The engines spool up a rising whine that settles into a steady rumble. Iris's fingers tap the armrest. Not nervousness, a pattern. 4 beats, pause, 4 beats. The rhythm of a pre-flight checklist she hasn't run in 3 years, but can't forget. Captain Davis Mitchell's voice comes over the PA, warm and reassuring. Flight attendants prepare for departure. Folks, we've got beautiful weather tonight, clear skies once we're above 10,000 feet. Should be a smooth one. Iris mutters under her breath, so quiet only she can hear it. Not if that cold front accelerates over the Rockies. 2 rows ahead, Desmond Carver catches the tail end of her words. He glances back, smirks, leans toward Cassius. Did you hear that random girl back there pretending she knows meteorology? Cassius snorts. Probably Googled how to sound smart on a plane. Jonna Frost influencer extraordinaire is filming herself in selfie mode, whispering into the camera. Hey guys, so I'm on this flight to Salt Lake, and there's this woman in economy, like rough looking, and she's acting all... She pauses, searching for the word. Knowledgeable about flying. It's giving stolen valor vibes. I'll keep you updated. She doesn't notice that Iris's jacket has shifted slightly, revealing a thin white scar on her right wrist. The kind of scar you get from shrapnel knot surgery. The kind that tells a story about being in the wrong place at the wrong time, or the right place depending on who's telling it. The engines roar. The plane surges forward, pressing everyone back into their seats. Iris's eyes stay closed, but her breathing is controlled. 4 counts in, hold 4 counts out. The same rhythm she used in the cockpit of an F-16 when surface-to-air missiles were tracking her over hostile territory. Griffin watches her chest rise and fall. Yeah, he murmurs to his wife. That's a pilot. Margaret squeezes his hand. Then why is she sitting back here? Griffin doesn't have an answer. Neither does anyone else. Not yet. The takeoff is smooth. Textbook. The 767 climbs through 10,000 feet, and the seatbelt sign chimes off. Passengers unbuckle, stretch, pull out laptops and magazines. The cabin settles into the quiet hum of a night flight. First Officer Rory Bennett's voice comes over the PA, young and confident. Folks, this is First Officer Bennett. We've reached our cruising altitude of 37,000 feet. Captain Mitchell and I are expecting some light chop over the Rockies in about 20 minutes, nothing to worry about. We'll keep that seatbelt sign on as a precaution. Sit back and enjoy the flight. Iris's eyes open. She stares at the seat back in front of her, processing. Light chop. She glances out the window. The moon is bright, the sky clear, but far to the west, barely visible. There's a line of clouds building, tall, anvil-shaped. The kind that doesn't show up on standard weather radar until it's too late. Her right hand trembles, just slightly. She makes a fist, releases it. The tremor doesn't stop. Nerve damage, Syria, IED blast. The doctors said it would fade. It didn't. She's learned to work around it, most of the time. Up in first class, Cassius unbuckles and stands. He's had 2 whiskeys already courtesy of Melody, and he's feeling bold. He walks toward the galley where Melody is preparing the beverage service. "Melody," he says, voice loud enough to carry, "I want to file a complaint." Melody keeps her smile professional. "Of course, Mr. Whitmore. What's the issue?" He jerks his thumb toward the economy curtain. "That woman, the one in the hoodie, she doesn't belong on this flight. I don't know how she got a ticket, but I'm guessing it's some kind of—" He lowers his voice, but not much. "Charity program. Discount fare for the underprivileged or whatever. I paid full price. I don't appreciate being seated near that." Melody's smile tightens. "Sir, all passengers have valid tickets. If you have a concern about seating, I can check if there's availability elsewhere." "I want her moved," Cassius interrupts. "Or I want a refund. Do you know who I am?" "Yes, sir. You've mentioned it 3 times. Behind them, Dr. Felicity Graves, cardiologist, seat 8B, glances up from her medical journal. She's been half listening, and her jaw tightens. She doesn't say anything. Not yet, but she files it away. The plane hits the first patch of turbulence. Not severe, just a sudden drop, maybe 50 feet, that makes the cabin lurch and several passengers gasp. Cassius stumbles, grabs the galley counter. His whiskey sloshes onto his hand. Iris doesn't move. Her feet are braced against the floor core and gauge posture locked. It's instinct, the same reflex that kept her stable in an F-16 cockpit when SAMs were detonating close enough to rattle her teeth. Griffin sees it. Again. He nudges Margaret harder this time. "Look, watch her." Margaret looks. She didn't even flinch. Exactly. The turbulence smooths out. Cassius wipes his hand on a napkin, glaring at Melody like the bump was her fault. "This is unacceptable. I'm writing a letter to the airline. This flight is a disgrace." Melody nods. "I'll make a note in the report, sir. Please return to your seat." He doesn't. He turns, looks back through the economy curtain directly at Iris. His eyes narrow. She's sitting perfectly still, head against the window, eyes closed again, like the turbulence didn't even register. "Who is she?" he mutters. Melody doesn't answer. She doesn't know. Neither does anyone else on this plane. But in 19 minutes, they're going to find out. Iris shifts in her seat, reaches into her jacket pocket, and pulls out a small plastic water bottle, the cheap kind from a gas station label half peeled. She twists the cap with her left hand. As she lifts it to drink, the collar of her hoodie shifts. Just for a second, maybe 2. A thin chain glints under the overhead reading light. Silver. Military issue. Jonna Frost, 3 rows up and across the aisle, is filming a cozy flight aesthetic video for her Instagram. She pans the camera across the cabin, catches the glint, zooms in. The frame shakes as she tries to focus, but Iris adjusts her position, and the chain disappears back under the hoodie. Gianna frowns, reviews the footage. The glint is there but blurry. She captions the clip, "Mysterious vibes on this flight. Stay tuned and post it." 2 rows behind Iris Thatcher. Morgan, retired Boeing engineer, seat 13B, is pretending to read a Tom Clancy novel, but his eyes keep drifting forward. He's been watching Iris since boarding. Not in a creepy way, in an analytical way. Something about her doesn't add up. The cockpit door is open, a crack standard procedure during cruise when there's no security threat. Through the gap, Thatcher can see a sliver of the instrument panel. Altimeter, airspeed indicator, attitude indicator. Iris's eyes are on that gap. She's not staring, just tracking. Her gaze flicks from the altimeter to the VSI, vertical speed indicator, to the engine gauges. Her lips move almost imperceptibly. Thatcher can't hear her, but he can read her lips. 37,280 knots. Fuel flow normal. EGT within limits. She's reading the instruments from 12 rows back through a 2-inch gap. Thatcher closes his book. He leans forward, whispers to his wife. "Honey, that woman, she's reading the cockpit instruments." His wife, Diane, glances up. "What?" She's reading the gauges from back here. Civilians don't do that. Diane looks at Iris, then back at Thatcher. Maybe she's just observant. Thatcher shakes his head. You don't read EGT limits unless you've flown before. That's exhaust gas temperature. Pilots monitor it for engine health. She just rattled off 5 different parameters in the correct sequence. Diane frowns. So she's a pilot? Maybe. Or she used to be. Iris's right hand moves to her thigh, rubs a spot just above her knee. Unconscious. Muscle memory. There's a faint scar there, hidden under the denim, a 5-inch line from shrapnel that tore through her leg when the IED detonated 30 feet from her patrol base in Syria. She'd been grounded for 8 weeks. The nerve damage in her hand started 3 days later. She mutters under her breath so quiet that even Griffin, who's still watching her, can't hear. Squawk 7700 if medical, Mayday if structural. Emergency transponder codes. The kind of thing you drill into muscle memory during pilot training and never forget, even if you haven't touched the yoke in 3 years. Thatcher hears it. Barely. His eyes widen. He turns to Diane. She's not just a pilot. She's military. Diane looks skeptical. In a hoodie from a thrift store. Thatcher doesn't answer. He's seen enough veterans fall through the cracks to know that service doesn't guarantee stability. He's also seen enough of them retain their skills long after the uniform comes off. He pulls out his phone, opens a browser, starts typing. Female military pilots, F-16, call signs. But the plane hits another bump harder this time, and his phone slips from his hand, clatters to the floor. Iris's eyes snap open. She doesn't look at Thatcher. She looks at the ceiling, at the overhead panel, at the way the lights flicker again longer this time, a full 2 seconds before stabilizing. Her fingers drum the armrest. Not random, a pattern. Check electrical bus. Generator 1, Generator 2, APU status, backup systems. A pre-flight checklist. The kind you run when something's wrong and you need to know what you're working with. Griffin sees it. He's not an engineer like Thatcher, but he's flown enough P-3 Orions to recognize a pilot running through procedures in their head. He leans over to Margaret, whispers. She's not just sitting there. She's monitoring the plane. Margaret looks at him like he's lost his mind. Griff, she's a passenger. Yeah, he says quietly. That's what worries me. 22 minutes into the flight, the turbulence returns. This time, it's not light chop. The plane drops, hard, 200 feet in 3 seconds. Overhead bins rattle. A laptop flies off a tray table in row 9 and crashes into the aisle. Someone screams. The seatbelt sign chimes on, but it's too late. Half the passengers aren't buckled. Melody Kane grabs the galley counter to keep from falling. In first class, Cassius's drink tips over, soaking his lap. He swears loud and colorful. Iris's hands shoot to her armrests. Not panic, preparation. Her feet press into the floor, knees locked, core braced. She's done this 1,000 times. Felt the sickening lurch of a jet being tossed by wind, shear the stomach drop of negative Gs. Her eyes track the ceiling. The walls, listening to the airframe, groan under stress. She mutters, counting. 3 seconds down. Sharp recovery, wind shear, microburst potential. Griffin hears her. His face goes pale. Microburst out here. Margaret grabs his arm. What's a microburst? Downdraft. Powerful enough to slam a plane into the ground if you're low enough. At altitude, it just... The plane drops again, cutting him off. Does that. In the cockpit, Captain Davis Mitchell grips the yoke with both hands, fighting to stabilize. He's 58, 26 years with the airline, and he's flown through plenty of rough weather. But this feels different. The turbulence isn't random, it's organized. Cells of rising and falling air stacked on top of each other like a meat grinder. Rory, he says, voice tight. Get me updated weather for the route and check the radar. Rory Bennett. 27, young enough to still believe checklists, Solve Everything toggles the weather radar display. The screen flickers. Once, twice, then goes black. Uh, Captain, radar's out. Davis's jaw tightens. What do you mean out? I mean it's dead. No display, no returns, nothing. Davis reaches over, taps the screen. Nothing. He flips the radar to standby, back to active. Still nothing. Christ, he mutters. He keys the PA. Flight attendants, please take your seats immediately. Folks, we're experiencing some moderate turbulence. Please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened. Moderate is an understatement. The plane is bucking like a bull. In row 15, a woman is crying, clutching her infant son. In row 10, a businessman is gripping his armrest so hard his knuckles are white, and then quiet. The turbulence stops. Just stops. Like someone flipped a switch. The cabin goes eerily still. Passengers look around wide-eyed, waiting for the next hit. It doesn't come, but something worse does. Captain Davis Mitchell feels it first, a dull ache in his chest. He shifts in his seat, thinking it's just tension, but the ache spreads down his left arm up into his jaw. His vision blurs at the edges. Rory, he says quietly, I need you to take the controls. Rory glances over. Sir, Davis's hand slips off the yoke. His face is gray. Sweat beads on his forehead. I think, his voice cracks, I think I'm having a heart attack. Rory's world tilts. What? Davis slumps forward against his harness. His breathing is shallow, ragged. His left hand claws at his chest. Rory grabs the intercom. His voice, when it comes, is barely controlled. Melody Cockpit, now. Medical emergency. In the cabin, passengers freeze. The words medical emergency cut through the silence like a gunshot. Melody sprints forward, yanks open the cockpit door. She sees Davis, sees the monitor showing his oxygen levels dropping, and her training kicks in. I'm calling for a doctor. She grabs the PA. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a medical emergency. If there is a physician on board, please identify yourself immediately. Dr. Felicity Graves is already unbuckling. She's in the aisle before Melody finishes the sentence, moving toward the cockpit with the efficiency of someone who's spent 20 years in ERs. But Cassius is faster. He lurches out of his seat, blocks the aisle. What's happening? Is the pilot down? Who's flying this plane? Melody tries to push past him. Sir, please return to your seat. Who's flying? Cassius's voice rises to a shout. Other passengers turn eyes wide. Panic is contagious. Is it the kid? The first officer. He looks like he's 12. Desmond Carver stands too. Cassius, calm down. Calm down. Cassius wheels on him. The captain just collapsed. We're in a storm. The radar's dead. I heard them say it, and you want me to calm down. Gianna Frost is filming everything, phone held high, her voice breathless. Oh my God, you guys, the captain's unconscious. This is insane. I might die on this flight. If I don't make it, tell my followers I love them. Griffin stands, his Navy command voice cutting through the chaos. Everybody sit down and shut up. The cabin goes quiet. Griffin points at Cassius. You, sit. You're making it worse. Cassius opens his mouth to argue, but Griffin takes a step forward. Slow, deliberate, and Cassius backs down. Dr. Graves squeezes past, disappears into the cockpit. Through the open door, passengers can see Captain Davis slumped in his seat. Dr. Graves checking his pulse, Rory Bennett white-knuckled on the yoke, and then Rory's voice shaking comes over the PA. Ladies and gentlemen, this is First Officer Bennett. Captain Mitchell is unconscious. We have a medical situation. He pauses, swallows hard. I'm taking control of the aircraft. If there is anyone on board with military aviation experience, repeat military aviation experience, please identify yourself to the flight crew immediately. The cabin is silent. 183 passengers. Not one of them moves, except Iris Caldwell. She stands, slowly, Her hoodie wrinkled, her jeans frayed, her sneakers scuffed. She steps into the aisle, and every single person in first class turns to stare. Iris walks down the aisle, slow, steady. Her sneakers make no sound on the carpet. Every eye in first class follows her, some curious, some confused, most skeptical. She reaches the galley where Melody is standing, still pale from seeing Captain Davis collapse. Iris's voice is calm, quiet. "Ma'am, I can help. Former Air Force, F-16, 600 combat hours." Melody blinks. She looks at Iris. Really looks at the faded hoodie, the patched jeans, the exhaustion written into every line of her face. You're a pilot." "Was," Iris says. "Medically retired. But I can fly." Before Melody can respond, Cassius Whitmore is out of his seat. Again. He pushes past Desmond, strides into the galley, and plants himself between Iris and the cockpit door. "Absolutely not." His voice is loud enough to carry through half the cabin. "Are you kidding me right now?" Iris doesn't flinch. She just looks at him, steady, waiting. Cassius turns to Melody. "You're not seriously considering this. Look at her. Look at her!" He gestures at Iris, like she's evidence in a trial. She can't even afford decent clothes. You think she's a military pilot? She's lying. Desmond appears behind him, voice lower but no less certain. "Cass is right. Anyone can claim military service. Where's your proof?" "ID credentials." Iris reaches into her jacket pocket, pulls out a battered wallet, and hands Melody a Colorado driver's license. Melody reads it aloud. "Iris Caldwell, Denver address." "That doesn't prove she's a pilot," Cassius snaps. Iris pulls out a second card, faded, laminated. Melissa takes it, her eyes widening. "Military ID, Captain, United States Air Force, retired." Cassius snatches it from her hand, studies it like it's a forgery. "Retired. You mean discharged. What for couldn't hack it? Failed a psych eval." He shoves the ID back at Iris. "I'm not trusting my life to some washed-up sir." Melody's voice is firm now. She has valid credentials. "I don't care about credentials." Cassius's face is red. "I care about results. Look at her hand." He grabs Iris's right wrist, yanks it up. Her hand is trembling, visibly. The nerve damage she's been trying to hide now on full display under the galley lights. Cassius holds her wrist like it's a smoking gun. "Look, her hand is shaking. She can't even hold it steady. You want to put her in the cockpit. She'll kill us all." Murmurs ripple through the cabin. Passengers crane their necks to see. Gianna Frost zooms her phone camera in, catching every shake, every tremor. Iris pulls her hand back. Slowly. Her voice doesn't change. "It's nerve damage from an IED blast in Syria. It doesn't affect my ability to fly." "Bullshit," Cassius says flatly. "Flying requires precision, steady hands. You don't have that. You're a liability." Thatcher Morgan stands up from 13B. His voice is quiet, but carries weight. "Actually, I'm an aerospace engineer. Retired from Boeing. Nerve damage in one hand doesn't disqualify a pilot. It's about compensation and training. If she says she can fly, I'm inclined to believe her." Cassius wheels on him. "Oh, you're inclined, great. Let's all die based on your inclination." Griffin Walsh pushes out of his seat, moves up the aisle. 72 years old, but his voice still has the bark of a naval officer. "Son, I flew P-3 Orions for the Navy. I've seen pilots lose fingers and still land a plane in a typhoon. That woman has military bearing. I can see it from 14 rows back. Let her help." Cassius laughs sharp bitter. "Military bearing? She looks like she's been living in her car. For all we know, she bought that ID on eBay." Dr. Felicity Graves appears at the cockpit door. Her scrubs are spotted with sweat. "We don't have time for this. Captain Davis is in cardiac arrest. First Officer Bennett is 27 years old, and he's never flown solo in severe weather. If she has experience, we need her." Cassius blocks the cockpit door with his body. I'm not moving. You let her in there, I'll sue this airline into bankruptcy. I'll sue her. I'll sue every single person who made this decision. Iris doesn't argue. She doesn't plead. She just looks at Rory, who's visible through the cockpit door, hands shaking on the yolk sweat dripping down his temples. First Officer Bennett, Iris says loud enough for him to hear. What's your fuel state? Rory glances back, confused. 9,200 pounds. Altitude, 37,000. Airspeed, 280 knots. Engine temps. Rory checks the gauges. Normal. Both engines. But wait, engine 2's showing a vibration warning. Iris nods. Ice accumulation in the compressor. You need to cycle the anti-ice system. Engine 2 first, then engine 1. 30-second intervals. Rory stares at her. How do you... Just do it. He does. The vibration warning clears. The cabin goes silent. Cassius is still blocking the door, but his certainty is cracking. Lucky guess, he mutters. Iris turns to him. Her voice is still calm, still quiet. Mr. Whitmore, I understand you're scared, everyone is, but right now you have two choices. You can let me help, or you can keep blocking that door and hope a first officer with 200 hours of experience can land this plane in a storm with no radar. Your call. Cassius doesn't move. His jaw works like he's chewing glass. Doctor. Graves steps between them, looks Cassius dead in the eye. Sir, I've worked trauma surgery for 20 years. I've seen people operate under pressure that would break most humans. That woman just diagnosed an engine problem from 12 rows back. She's not guessing. She's not faking. She's the real deal. Now move. Cassius hesitates. For 5 long seconds, the entire cabin holds its breath. Then Griffin grabs Cassius's shoulder. Not rough, but firm. Son, if you don't step aside, I'm going to move you myself. Cassius looks at Griffin, sees the steel in the old man's eyes, and finally, reluctantly steps aside. Iris walks past him. She doesn't gloat, doesn't say a word, just steps into the cockpit. Melody closes the door behind her. Through the gap, passengers can see Iris settle into the jump seat behind Rory. Her hand is still trembling, but her voice, when she speaks, is rock steady. First Officer Bennett, I'm Captain Iris Caldwell, United States Air Force retired. I'm here to assist. Do you accept my help? Rory looks at her like she's a life raft in a hurricane. Yes, God, yes. Cassius sinks into his seat, face pale. Desmond leans over. You okay, Cass? Cassius doesn't answer. He's staring at the cockpit door, realizing maybe for the first time in his life that money doesn't solve everything. Gianna Frost is still filming, but her hands are shaking too. And in 14A, Griffin Walsh whispers to his wife, that woman just saved this flight, and no one's even thanked her yet. Margaret squeezes his hand. They will, if we land. When we land, Griffin corrects. But he's not sure he believes it. The cockpit is cramped. 3 seats, captain's left. First officer's right jump seat center aft. Captain Davis is slumped in the left seat oxygen mask, strapped over his face chest, rising and falling in shallow, irregular breaths. Dr. Graves is wedged between the seats, monitoring his pulse, with 2 fingers on his carotid artery. Iris slides into the jump seat. The view through the windscreen is black. No moon now, just clouds thick and roiling, lit occasionally by distant lightning that looks like camera flashes in the dark. Rory's hands are locked on the yoke, white-knuckled. His voice is tight. Captain Caldwell. Iris, she corrects. We don't have time for rank. What's our situation? Rory swallows. Radar's been dead for 8 minutes. Weather's deteriorating faster than forecast. We're at flight level 370, heading 245 speed 280 knots. Fuel is 9,200 pounds, maybe 40 minutes at current consumption. Iris scans the instrument panel. The Boeing 767 is older glass cockpit, but not fully integrated like the newer models. She spots the issue immediately. Your radar's not dead. It's in standby mode. Someone toggled it during the turbulence. Rory blinks. What? Iris reaches past him, flips the radar selector from STBY to active. The screen flickers once, twice, then paints. But what it shows makes Rory's breath catch. The entire display is red, solid red. A wall of severe precipitation stretching from their 10 o'clock position to their 2 o'clock, maybe 80 miles wide, extending from 10,000 feet to over 50,000. Jesus, Rory whispers. Iris's jaw tightens. That's not just a storm. That's a supercell. Rotation, hail, wind shear in every quadrant. She taps the screen, and we're flying straight into it. Rory reaches for the radio. Denver Center, November 7-4 Bravo, requesting immediate deviation left of course, vectors around weather. Static. Heavy crackling static. He tries again. Denver Center, November 7-4. Bravo, how copy? More static. Then faintly a voice broken and distorted. November, static. Copy, static. Interference, solar activity, static. Switch guard. The transmission cuts out completely. Iris leans forward. Solar storm. It's scrambling the VHF frex. Switch to guard frequency 121.5. Rory toggles the radio. Guard is the emergency frequency monitored by everyone military-civilian air traffic control. If anyone can hear them, it'll be on guard. Iris takes the mic. Her voice is calm, clipped precise. Any station, this is November 7-4. Bravo on guard. We have pilot incapacitation radar limited fuel, state critical. Request immediate assistance. Position approximately 60 miles west of Denver flight level 370, heading 245. Silence. 5 seconds. 10. Then a new voice. Male. Authoritative. Military cadence. November the 7-4. Bravo, this is Peterson approach on guard. We read you weak but clear. Confirm pilot incapacitation. State nature of emergency. Rory exhales like he's been holding his breath for an hour. Iris keys the mic. Peterson, November 7-4 Bravo. Captain is in cardiac arrest. First officer is rated, but inexperienced in severe weather. I'm providing assistance former military F-16 background. We need vectors around the weather and a suitable divert. Pause. November 7-4 Bravo Peterson. Copy all. Squawk 7700. Confirm souls on board and fuel remaining. Iris glances at Rory. He reaches over dials 7700 into the transponder, the international emergency code. 183 souls. Fuel is 9,000 pounds now. Iris keys the mic again. Peterson souls 183. Fuel 9,000 pounds, approximately 35 minutes endurance. Roger, November 7-4 Bravo. Be advised weather is developing rapidly. Multiple aircraft are diverting. We're clearing airspace for you. Stand by for vectors. The radio goes quiet. Iris turns to Rory. What's the status on engine 2? Rory checks the engine instruments. His face goes pale. Vibrations back. Worse than before. EGT is climbing. We're at 700 degrees and rising. Red line is 750. Iris watches the gauge. 710. 720. Ice is building in the compressor, she says. Anti-ice isn't keeping up. If it hits red line, we'll have to shut it down. Shut it down, Rory's voice cracks. Can we fly on one engine? We can. But it'll cut our range in half and limit our altitude. We won't be able to climb over the weather. We'll have to go through it. 730, 740, bang. The plane shudders. A sound like a shotgun blast echoes through the airframe. Rory jerks the yoke over corrects and the plane yaws hard to the right. What was that? He shouts. Iris is already scanning the instruments. Lightning strike. Port side aft fuselage. Check the electrics. Rory's eyes flick to the electrical panel. Generator 1 is offline. We're on Generator 2 and battery backup. Iris's hand hovers over the engine controls. We just lost redundancy. If Generator 2 fails, we're down to batteries. That gives us maybe 20 minutes before we lose avionics. The EGT gauge hits 750. The red warning light blinks on. Iris doesn't hesitate. Engine 2, shut it down. Now. Rory's hand freezes on the throttle. Are you sure? We don't have a choice. If the turbine fails, it could take the wing with it. Shut it down. Rory pulls the engine 2 throttle to idle, then cut off. The engine spools down. The steady twin-engine hum becomes a lopsided growl. The plane yaws right again as asymmetric thrust takes over. Iris reaches past. Rory adjusts the rudder trim to compensate. You're flying single engine now. Maintain 250 knots minimum. Any slower and we'll lose lift. Rory nods, but his hands are shaking. In the cabin, passengers feel the change immediately. The sound is different. Wrong. Alarms are muffled but audible through the cockpit door. Cassius is out of his seat again, pounding on the door. What's happening? Why does it sound like that? Melody blocks him. Sir, sit down. Did we lose an engine? Did we lose an engine? Griffin stands, grabs Cassius by the arm, drags him back to his seat. You're going to sit, you're going to shut up, and you're going to let them work. Cassius collapses into 6A, breathing hard. Inside the cockpit, Peterson approach comes back on the radio. November 7-4, Bravo Peterson. We have you on radar. Showing single engine. Confirm. Iris keys the mic. Affirm Peterson. Engine 2 shut down due to overtemp. We're wings level maintaining flight level 370, but we need descent clearance and a vector to the nearest suitable airport. Copy November 7-4 Bravo. Nearest suitable is Peterson Air Force Base. Runway 35, left 13,500 feet available. Field elevation 6,000 feet. Winds currently 320 at 25, gusting 40. Visibility 1 mile in snow. Approach minimums are 400 feet 3/4 mile. Can you accept? Rory looks at Iris, eyes wide. Those are below my minimums. I've never landed in visibility that low. Iris looks at the fuel gauge, 8,000 pounds, maybe 30 minutes. She looks at the weather radar. The red wall is closing in. She looks at Rory. I have, she says quietly. She keys the mic. Peterson November 7-4 Bravo accepts. Request immediate vectors and priority handling. Roger November 7-4 Bravo. You are cleared direct, Peterson. Descend pilot's discretion. All other traffic has been cleared from your route. Emergency equipment is standing by. Welcome home, Iris. The use of her first name makes Rory turn. They know you. Iris doesn't answer. Her right hand is trembling worse now, but she grips the edge of the center console and holds it still. Let's just get this plane on the ground. Iris's eyes are locked on the fuel gauge. 8,000 pounds. Burning at 400 pounds per hour on a single engine. The math is brutal. Rory, she says quietly, reduce power to max endurance. We need to stretch every drop. Rory's hand hovers over the throttle. Max endurance that's below minimum safe speed in turbulence. The book assumes you have 2 engines in perfect weather. Iris's voice is calm but absolute. Right now we have neither. Reduced to 250 knots. Rory hesitates. Every instinct he has, every hour of training screams that slowing down in rough air is suicide. But he looks at Iris, sees the steady focus in her eyes, and makes the call. He pulls the throttle back. The engine note drops. The airspeed bleeds off. 270, 260, 250. The plane shudders just once, then steadies. The fuel flow drops from 400 pounds per hour to 300. Rory stares at the gauge like it just performed a miracle. How did you F-16s don't carry a lot of gas? Iris says. You learn to fly the backside of the power curve. Lower speed, lower drag, better fuel economy as long as you stay above stall speed and don't let the nose drop. She reaches over, adjusts the pitch trim, half a degree nose up. The plane settles into a gentle, stable glide. The vibration smooths out. The turbulence still present feels less violent, like the aircraft is riding the air instead of fighting it. Rory exhales. Okay, we just bought ourselves 10 more minutes. Closer to 15. Iris corrects. She keys the mic. Peterson, November 74 Bravo, is established at 250 knots fuel conservation profile. Request updated weather and vectors. November 74 Bravo. Peterson copies. Current weather Peterson Field is reporting ceiling 400 overcast visibility 1 mile in moderate snow winds 320 at 28, gusting 42. Runway 35 left ILS approach available. We're uploading the approach plate to your FMS now. The flight management system screen flickers, then displays the approach chart. Rory studies it, and his face goes pale. Iris, this is a Category 2 approach. I'm not rated for Cat 2. I've only done Cat 1 in the simulator. Iris glances at the chart. Decision altitude 400 feet. Visibility minimums 3/4 of a mile. Tight but doable for someone with experience. You won't be flying it, she says. I will. Rory turns to her. But you said you're medically retired. Your hand can still fly an ILS approach. Iris's right hand is resting on her thigh, now the tremor barely visible. I've landed in worse. Trust me. Behind them, Dr. Graves looks up from Captain Davis. He's stable. Pulse is weak but steady. If we can get him to a hospital in the next 30 minutes, he'll make it. Iris nods. We'll make it. The plane hits another patch of turbulence, moderate, not severe. The kind that would have had Rory fighting the controls 10 minutes ago. But with Iris's power setting and trim adjustments, the 767 rides it like a boat on swells. Uncomfortable, but controlled. In the cabin, passengers notice the change. The shaking has lessened. The engine noise is quieter. It's not smooth, but it's no longer terrifying. Griffin Walsh leans back in his seat, closes his eyes, and whispers to Margaret. She knows what she's doing. Margaret squeezes his hand. How can you tell? Because we're still flying. Up in first class, Cassius is silent. He's gripping his armrests, staring at the seat back in front of him, his earlier bluster completely gone. Desmond leans over. You okay, Cass? Cassius doesn't answer. He's too busy replaying every word he said in the galley, every accusation, every threat. The woman he called a liar, a fake, a liability. She's the only reason they're still in the air. Gianna Frost has stopped filming. Her phone is in her lap screen dark. She's staring out the window at the blackness beyond. And for the first time in years, she's not thinking about content. She's thinking about survival. Thatcher Morgan, the retired Boeing engineer, is leaning forward listening to the engine. Single-engine ops on a 767 are rare, usually only practiced in simulators, but whoever's flying up there is doing it perfectly. Smooth power management, optimal trim, textbook technique. He turns to his wife, Diane. That's not the first officer. That's her. Diane frowns. How do you know? Because that engine sounds like it's being flown by someone who's done this 1,000 times. And in the cockpit, Iris Caldwell, hands trembling, body-exhausted mind, sharp as a blade, watches the fuel gauge tick down and prepares for the hardest landing of her life. 8,000 pounds, 30 minutes, one engine, no room for error. The descent begins smoothly. Iris calls for the checklist. Rory single-engine descent checklist. Call and response. Rory pulls the laminated card from the side pocket hands, shaking slightly. Auto throttle off. Speed brakes, armed, not deployed. Fuel cross-feed, open, balancing tanks. They work through it, methodical and precise. The plane drops through flight level 350, then 330. The descent rate is smooth 500 feet per minute. Controlled, professional. Then the weather hits. Not turbulence this time. Hail. The first stones are small, pea-sized, rattling against the fuselage like gravel on a tin roof. Then they get bigger, marble-sized, golf ball-sized. The sound is deafening, a continuous roar that drowns out the engine noise. Rory flinches with every impact. Jesus, can the windscreen take this? It's rated for bird strikes up to 4 pounds at cruise speed, Iris says, eyes on the instruments. We're well below that. It'll hold. 5 seconds later, a chunk of ice the size of a fist slams into the lower left corner of the windscreen. Crack. A spiderweb of fractures spreads across the glass, 6 inches wide, radiating outward like frozen lightning. The inner layer holds, but the outer pane is compromised. Rory stares at it horrified. Oh my God. Don't look at it, Iris snaps. Eyes on the instruments. The glass will hold. Keep descending. But the hail doesn't stop. It intensifies. The plane is flying through a hailstorm at 250 knots, and every impact sounds like the airframe is being beaten with hammers. In the cabin, passengers scream. Overhead, bins rattle. A window shade snaps up on its own, revealing the hellscape outside, ice chunks illuminated by lightning hurtling past like tracer rounds. Cassius is on his feet again, shouting, "We're going to die. The plane is falling apart." Griffin tries to grab him, but Cassius shoves him off. The old man stumbles, hits the armrest hard. Margaret cries out. Melody unbuckles from her jump seat, rushes forward. "Sir, sit down now, or I will restrain you." Cassius doesn't listen. He pounds on the cockpit door. "Open up, I demand to know what's happening." Inside, Iris doesn't even glance back. Her focus is total. "Rory, what's our altitude?" 28,000. Descending. "Fuel." Rory checks. His voice cracks. 6,000 pounds. We just burned through 2,000 in 15 minutes. Iris's jaw tightens. The hail is increasing drag. The single engine is working harder. Fuel burn is spiking. "How far to Peterson?" 40 miles. 40 miles. 6,000 pounds. At current burn rate, they have maybe 20 minutes of fuel left. The approach alone will take 15. The margin for error just went from slim to non-existent. The radio crackles. November 7-4. Bravo Peterson approach. Be advised field conditions are deteriorating. Winds now 330 at 32, gusting 48. Visibility 3/4 mile in heavy snow. Braking action reported fair to poor. Do you wish to continue approach or divert? Iris looks at the fuel gauge. Looks at the weather radar solid red in every direction. There is no divert. There's only Peterson or a crash landing in the Rockies. She keys the mic. "Peterson, we're committed. We'll take the approach." Roger, November 7-4 Bravo. Expect vectors to final in 5 minutes. Emergency equipment is in position. Iris releases the mic. Her right hand is trembling badly now, worse than it's been all flight. She makes a fist, holds it against her thigh, wills the muscle spasms to stop. Rory sees it. "Iris, can you still fly?" She doesn't answer immediately, just stares at her hand at the visible shake that won't quit, no matter how hard she tries. Then she looks up, meets his eyes. We're about to find out. Behind them, the cockpit door shudders as Cassius pounds it again. "Let me in. I have a right to know. Doctor." Graves turns from Captain Davis, snaps at the door. "If you don't sit down, I will sedate you myself." The pounding stops. The hail doesn't. The windscreen crack spreads another inch, creeping toward the center. The fuel gauge ticks down. 5,900 pounds. Rory's voice is barely a whisper. "Iris, we're not going to make it, are we?" Iris doesn't answer. She's staring at the approach plate, calculating sink rates, glide slopes, wind corrections, running the numbers over and over in her head. Single engine, cracked windscreen, low fuel, gusting crosswinds, visibility at minimums, one chance, no second approach, no go-around, land it or die trying. She keys the mic one more time. Peterson, November 7-4 Bravo. We're ready for vectors. November 7-4 Bravo, turn left, heading 010 descend and maintain 10,000. You're 15 miles from the outer marker. Contact tower on 118.3. Iris reaches for the radio dial, but her hand seizes muscles, locking up fingers frozen. She grits her teeth, forces her hand to move, switches the frick. Rory sees it, sees the tremor, sees the pain in her face. But he doesn't say anything, because outside the windscreen, through the cracked glass and the hail and the darkness, he can see the faint glow of runway lights in the distance. 5 miles, maybe less, so close and so impossibly far. We're down to one engine, 6,000 pounds of fuel, a cracked windscreen, and winds gusting near 50 knots. Iris's hand is barely responding, and there's no margin left for mistakes. Do you think she can pull off this landing, or is this where it all falls apart? Drop your prediction in the comments, because what happens next, you won't believe. Part 2, Buok 1, Go ROI Banfan, Theojukien, Junsai Fuel, Single Engine, Word Count Target, 440 words, 550, x 0.8. The hail stops as suddenly as it started. The roar fades to silence, leaving only the asymmetric hum of the single engine and the whistle of wind through the cracked windscreen. Iris exhales slowly. Rory, altitude check. 9,000 feet, descending 500 per minute. Fuel, Rory's voice is tight, 5,800 pounds. Iris does the math instantly. 15 minutes, maybe 18 if they're lucky. The approach will take 12. That leaves 6 minutes of buffer. In aviation, 6 minutes might as well be 6 seconds. Call out every 1,000 feet, Iris says, and watch the engine temps. Single engine descent puts extra load on the turbine. Rory nods, eyes glued to the gauges. 8,000 feet. Peterson Tower comes on the radio. November 7-4. Bravo Peterson Tower. Turn left heading 350, intercept the localizer for runway 35 left. You're cleared ILS approach. Report outer marker. Iris banks the plane gently. No sharp inputs, just smooth pressure on the yoke. The 767 responds like it's reading her mind. The single engine whines slightly as it compensates for the turn, but it holds steady. Localizer alive, Rory says, watching the navigation display. The magenta line on the screen shows their course converging with the approach path. We're 3 degrees right, correcting. Iris nudges the yoke. The plane slides left, tracking the invisible radio beam that will guide them to the runway. Good. Now arm the autopilot for the approach. Let the system do the precision work. Rory hesitates. You sure? With one engine. The autopilot doesn't care how many engines we have. It'll fly the approach smoother than either of us can hand fly it. Her right hand is still trembling, and she knows Rory sees it. Trust the automation. Save your energy for the landing. Rory arms the autopilot. The flight director bars on the HUD snap into position, and the plane begins tracking the glide slope with mechanical precision. 7,000 feet, Rory calls. Localizer centered. Glide slope intercept in 30 seconds. Iris watches the fuel gauge. 5,600 pounds. Every second that ticks by is another 10 pounds gone. Behind them, Dr. Graves adjusts Captain Davis's oxygen mask. His pulse is stabilizing. If we land in the next 15 minutes, he'll survive. We'll land in 12, Iris says quietly. The outer marker beeps a low-frequency tone that means they're 5 miles from the runway. Rory keys the radio. Peterson Tower, November 7-4, Bravo outer marker inbound. November 7-4. Bravo Peterson Tower. Winds 330 at 35, gusting 45. Visibility 3/4 mile. Runway in sight for preceding traffic. You're cleared to land runway 35 left. Emergency equipment is standing by. Iris feels the crosswind immediately, a steady push from the left that tries to drift them off course. The autopilot corrects, but it's fighting. Rory, she says calmly. When we get to decision altitude, I'm disconnecting the autopilot and hand flying the rest. Crosswind's this strong, I need manual control for the flare. Rory swallows hard. Copy. In the cabin, passengers feel the plane descending. The nose is pitched down slightly, the engine note steady, but strained. Griffin Walsh closes his eyes, his lips moving in silent prayer. Margaret grips his hand. Cassius is slumped in his seat, face pale, staring at nothing. Gianna's phone is in her lap, forgotten. And in the cockpit, Iris Caldwell, hands shaking body, exhausted, prepares to do the one thing she swore she'd never do again: fly. The autopilot holds the glide slope perfectly, but the crosswind is relentless. The plane crabs left nose pointed 15 degrees off the runway, heading just to track straight. It's ugly, but it's working. 6,000 feet, Rory calls. Glide slope centered. 4 miles to touchdown. Iris checks the fuel one more time. 5,400 pounds, 12 minutes. The radio crackles. A new voice, deeper, older, carrying command authority that makes Rory sit up straighter. November 7-4 Bravo. This is Colonel Finnegan, Cross Peterson Air Operations. We've been monitoring your situation, requesting pilot's full name for our records. Rory glances at Iris. She doesn't look at him, just keys the mic. Peterson pilot assisting is Iris Caldwell. A long pause. Static hisses. Then, Caldwell, former Air Force. Affirmative. Another pause. Longer this time. Captain Caldwell, what was your call sign? Iris closes her eyes. She knew this was coming. The moment she identified herself on guard frequency, she opened a door she'd kept shut for 3 years. Wraith, she says quietly. The silence on the other end stretches for 5 full seconds. When Colonel Cross speaks again, his voice is different, quieter, almost disbelieving. Wraith, 533 Fighter Squadron. Yes, sir. Captain Caldwell. Cross stops, regroups. Ma'am, our records show Wraith was killed in action. Syria, 2021. There was a memorial service at Nellis. Rory's head snaps toward Iris. You're supposed to be dead. Iris keeps her eyes on the instruments. I got better. Cross's voice returns all business now. Wraith were clearing all airspace within 50 miles. You have absolute priority. No other traffic. The entire base is standing by for your arrival. Welcome back, Captain. The weight in those last 3 words, welcome back, hits harder than Iris expected. She swallows, forces her voice steady. Copy Peterson. Appreciate the support. She releases the mic and finally looks at Rory. His face, his pale eyes wide. You were KIA. How? Long story. Iris cuts him off. Right now we need to focus on landing this plane. But in the cabin, passengers have been listening on the PA. Griffin Walsh's eyes are wet. He leans to Margaret, whispers, She's not just military. She's a ghost. They thought she was dead. Thatcher Morgan pulls his phone back out, searches frantically. Wraith, 533rd Fighter Squadron, Syria. A single news article from 2021 loads F-16, pilot presumed KIA after crash in hostile territory. Captain Iris Caldwell, call sign Wraith, failed to return from close air support mission. Search efforts suspended after 3 weeks. Thatcher shows his wife. Her hand covers her mouth. Cassius has heard it too. He's staring at the cockpit door, realization dawning like cold water. The woman he called a liar. A fake. A charity case. She's a legend, declared dead, and she's saving all of them. His hands start to shake. In first class, Gianna Frost picks up her phone, opens Instagram, deletes the video she posted earlier, the one mocking Iris's clothes, her appearance. Her finger hovers over the delete account button. She doesn't press it. Not yet. But the shame burns. The plane descends through 5,000 feet. Iris can see the runway now, a thin strip of lights cutting through the snow, flanked by red emergency vehicles that look like toys from this altitude. Peterson Tower comes back on. November to 7-4. Bravo winds now 340 at 38 gusting 50. Advise if you need to break off the approach. Iris keys the mic. Negative Peterson, we're committed. Understood, Wraith. We've got the entire wing watching. Bring her home. The use of her call sign over an open frequency is a breach of protocol, but it's also a message. We know who you are. We trust you. Rory hears it too. His hands stop shaking. Just a little. In the cabin, Melody Kane keys the PA. Her voice is steady, authoritative. Ladies and gentlemen, the pilot assisting us tonight is Captain Iris Caldwell, United States Air Force. She has been cleared by Peterson Air Force Base for an emergency landing. Please ensure your seatbelts are tight and remain seated. The effect is immediate. Passengers who'd been whispering, panicking, doubting they go quiet. Griffin sits straighter. Thatcher nods to himself, but Cassius is staring at the bulkhead face, ashen. Desmond leans over. Cass, you okay? I called her a liar, Cassius whispers. I grabbed her arm. I blocked the cockpit door. His voice breaks. I almost killed everyone on this plane. Desmond has no answer for that. 3 rows back, Gianna is typing furiously on her phone. A new post. I need to apologize. I judged someone without knowing their story. Captain Iris Caldwell is a hero. I was wrong. I'm sorry. She hesitates, then adds, she's saving 183 lives tonight, including mine. She posts it. 3,000 likes in 30 seconds. In 14A, Griffin turns to Margaret. That woman's flying on one-engine cracked windscreen, no fuel margin, 50-knot crosswinds, and Peterson just called her by name. You know what that means. Margaret shakes her head. It means they know her, personally. She's not just some random retiree. She's somebody. Up in the cockpit, Iris disconnects the autopilot. The yoke comes alive in her hands, immediate feedback. Every gust of wind transmitted through the controls. Her right hand trembles, but she grips harder, compensating. 4,000 feet, Rory calls. 3 miles, sync rate 700 feet per minute. Copy. Flaps 15. Rory moves the flap lever. The plane shudders as the wings' surfaces deploy, adding drag and lift. The descent steepens slightly. Gear down, Iris orders. Rory drops the landing gear. 3 green lights. Gear down 3 green. The plane slows. The single engine strains. Fuel 4,900 pounds. 10 minutes left. 2 miles to go. 2,000 feet. The runway is visible through the snow barely. Just a smear of white lights against black. The crosswind slams the plane sideways. Iris corrects with aileron and rudder, holding the nose 15 degrees left just to track straight. It's called crabbing flying, like a crab walks sideways to the direction of travel. 1,000 feet, Rory calls. His voice is steady now. He's watching Iris work, learning more in 10 minutes than he did in 6 months of training. Sync rate 600. The plane drops through a wind shear, sudden downdraft that slams them downward. Iris adds power instantly. The single engine roars, and the sync rate arrests. 500 feet. Iris can see individual runway lights now, flashing strobes. The poppy lights on the left side, 3 white, 1 red. Slightly high on the glide slope. Perfect. Then the wind gusts, 52 knots from the left. A wall of air that shoves the 767 sideways like a toy. The right wing dips. The nose swings right. The runway slides out of alignment. Rory gasps. We're off center line. Iris's hands move faster than thought. Left aileron to level the wing. Right rudder to swing the nose back. Power up to compensate for the sudden drag. The plane wobbles, shakes fights her, but she holds it. Center line, she says quietly. 300 feet. Behind them, Dr. Graves braces against the jump seat. Captain Davis is still unconscious, but his vital signs are holding. She glances at Iris's hands on the yoke, the right one trembling so badly it looks like she's vibrating the controls. But the plane isn't vibrating. It's stable. Somehow, despite the tremor, despite the wind, despite everything, Iris is holding the approach. 200 feet, Rory whispers. The cabin is silent. Every passenger is staring out windows, watching the ground rush up. Snow streaks past. Red lights flash. The runway is close enough to see cracks in the pavement. Cassius has his eyes-closed hands gripping the armrest so hard his knuckles are bone white. He's whispering something, maybe a prayer, maybe an apology. It's hard to tell. 100 feet. Iris pulls power to idle. The engine spools down. The plane is gliding now, no thrust, just momentum and lift. 50 feet. Flare. Iris pulls back on the yoke, gentle smooth. The nose rises. The main gear is seconds from touchdown, and then the fuel warning alarm screams, low fuel, low fuel, low fuel. Rory's eyes snap to the gauge. We're at minimum fuel, less than 3,000 pounds. The engine coughs, just once, a momentary hiccup as it sucks the last dregs from the tank. Iris doesn't react. Her eyes are locked on the runway. 20 feet, 10. Come on, she whispers. Just a little more. The main gear kisses the pavement, firm, solid, centered. The nose gear drops. Iris deploys the spoiler's arms, the thrust reverser on the single engine, and stands on the brakes. The plane decelerates. Hard. Emergency stop hard. 80 knots. 60. 40. The engine coughs again, starving now, running on fumes. 20 knots. 10. The plane rolls to a stop. Midfield. Center line. Safe. The engine dies. Completely. Just quits. The cockpit goes silent except for the howl of wind outside. Rory stares at Iris, mouth open. We landed on fumes. Literal fumes. Iris's hands are still on the yoke, still shaking. She releases them slowly, flexes her fingers, and leans back in the seat. Yeah, she says quietly. We did. The emergency vehicles converge on the 767 like wolves on wounded prey. Fire trucks, ambulances, Air Force security, a dozen vehicles with lights blazing red and blue against the snow. Iris keys the radio one last time. Peterson Tower, November 7-4. Bravo is stopped midfield runway 35 left. Engines secured. Requesting medical assistance for Captain Davis. Copy, Wraith. Medical is en route. Outstanding work. Welcome home. Rory unbuckles hands, still shaking from adrenaline. Iris. That landing. I've never seen anything like it. The crab angle, the flare timing landing with zero fuel. It's not zero. Iris corrects, tapping the fuel gauge. It reads 200 pounds. We've got enough for taxi. Barely. She's lying. They both know it. The engine died because the tank ran dry. But Rory doesn't argue. Behind them, Dr. Graves is already prepping Captain Davis for evacuation. Paramedics are boarding now. He's stable pulse, 62 BP holding. You bought him the time he needed. The cabin door opens. Cold air rushes in, carrying snow and the smell of jet fuel. 2 paramedics enter with a stretcher, moving with practiced efficiency. Iris stands legs stiff from 90 minutes in the jump seat. Her right hand is still trembling worse now that the adrenaline is fading. She flexes her fingers, trying to force blood back into the muscles. Rory notices. Your hand. It'll pass, Iris says quietly. Always does. But you flew the entire approach like that. The crosswind correction, the flare. How did you... Compensation. Iris pulls her hoodie tighter. You learn to work around it. Use your left hand for fine adjustments. Lock your right elbow for stability. The tremor affects precision, not strength. Rory shakes his head in disbelief. They discharged you for that. Iris doesn't answer, just watches the paramedics strap Captain Davis to the stretcher and carry him toward the door. In the cabin, passengers are standing now, stretching, crying, hugging strangers. The near-death experience has bonded them in ways they don't fully understand yet. Griffin Walsh is the first to approach the cockpit. He stops in the doorway, looks at Iris and salutes. Sharp, formal, military. Iris blinks, surprised, then returns it. Navy. P-3 pilot. 2 tours Vietnam. Griffin's voice is thick with emotion. Ma'am, I've seen a lot of flying in my life. That was the best I've ever witnessed. Thank you, sir. Margaret appears behind him, tears streaming. You saved my husband. You saved all of us. Before Iris can respond, other passengers crowd the aisle. Thatcher shaking her hand. Dr. Graves hugging her. A mother with an infant whispering, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." And then Cassius Whitmore appears. He stands in the galley, face pale, hands at his sides. For 10 long seconds he just stares at Iris. Then he speaks, quiet, broken. "Captain Caldwell, I don't know how to apologize for what I said. What I did, I was wrong. Completely inexcusably wrong." Iris looks at him. The man who called her a liar, who grabbed her wrist, who blocked the cockpit door while 183 people's lives hung in the balance. She doesn't smile, doesn't offer easy forgiveness. "Mr. Whitmore," she says evenly, "fear makes people do stupid things. What matters is what you do next." Cassius nods, unable to meet her eyes. He steps aside as more passengers press forward. Gianna Frost is there too, phone in hand but not filming this time, just holding it uncertain. "Captain Caldwell," she starts, "I posted things, awful things, about you. I deleted them, but—" "I know," Iris says. "I saw—" Gianna's face crumbles. "I'm so sorry." Iris studies her for a moment. "You learned something tonight. Make sure it sticks." Iris pulls off her hoodie. The cabin is warm now, heat from bodies and adrenaline. Beneath the worn fabric, she's wearing a faded gray t-shirt, and hanging against her chest, visible for the first time, is the dog tag. Silver, scratched, stamped with black letters. Caldwell Iris M., capped USAF, 533 FSO POS Wraith. Passengers near the cockpit see it. Thatcher points it out to his wife. Griffin's eyes fill with tears again. The jet bridge connects with a metallic thunk. The door opens, and a man in Air Force dress blues steps aboard. 55 gray at the temple's chest full of ribbons. Colonel Finnegan Cross. He stops when he sees Iris. Just stops. Stares. "Wraith," he says quietly, "we buried you." "Empty coffin, sir," Iris replies. Cross walks forward slowly, like he's approaching a ghost. "Syria. We searched for 3 weeks. Found your ejection seat part of the canopy. No body, no beacon. Intel said you were captured." "I was. 14 months. The cabin goes silent. Every passenger listening. "Extracted during a prisoner swap. Classified op. The brass decided it was safer to keep me KIA. The people who took me had long memories." Cross nods, slowly processing. Then he salutes. Sharp, formal. Iris returns it. Cross drops the salute and extends his hand. "Captain, on behalf of Peterson Air Force Base and the United States Air Force, welcome back, and thank you for bringing these people home." They shake. Firm. Brief. Cross turns to the passengers. "Ladies and gentlemen, you just experienced a piece of flying that will be studied at every aviation school in this country. Captain Caldwell landed a crippled aircraft on fumes in conditions that would have grounded most pilots. You're alive because she refused to quit." Applause erupts. Not polite, thunderous. People crying, shouting, hands pounding seat backs. Griffin is standing clapping so hard his palms sting. Gianna is filming again, but this time with permission. Capturing history. Cassius sits with his head in his hands, shoulders shaking, and Iris, silent, exhausted, just wants to disappear. Flashback Syria, 2021. Iris's voiceover as visual memory. Sandstorm. Zero visibility. My F-16 had taken shrapnel hydraulics, failing fuel leaking. But 30 miles north, a C-130 full of wounded was trying to land at a forward base with no tower, no instruments. Their pilot voice shaking, "Wraith, we can't see the runway. We're flying blind." Me cockpit filling with smoke. Listen to my voice, heading 090, descend 500 feet per minute. I'll talk you down. I flew next to them, couldn't see them through the sand, just their radar signature. Called out every adjustment. Left 5 degrees, ease the nose down. You're 2 miles out, 1 mile, half mile. They landed. All 23 wounded survived. I didn't. Ejected 10 miles from base. Chute landed in hostile territory. They found me 3 days later. 14 months in a cell. Escaped during a blackout. Special Ops pulled me out during a prisoner swap nobody talks about. The Air Force gave me a medal, then a medical discharge, then a new name. I became a ghost. Iris blinks. She's back in the present. Colonel Cross is watching her. The C-130 crew still talks about you, he says quietly. They named their bird Wraith's Gift. Iris's throat tightens. She didn't know that. The passengers deplane slowly, filing past Iris one by one. Some shake her hand. Others just nod, too emotional to speak. Cassius is last. He stands in the aisle briefcase, in hand looking smaller somehow. Diminished. "Captain Caldwell," he starts. His voice cracks. "I've spent my entire life believing that success was measured by what you own, how much you're worth, where you sit on a plane." He looks at his Rolex, his Italian shoes. "I was wrong about everything." Iris doesn't offer comfort, just waits. "I grabbed your wrist. I called you a liar. I blocked the door while people were dying." His hands are shaking. "I don't know how to live with that." "You'll figure it out," Iris says quietly. "Or you won't. That's on you." She walks past him, leaves him standing there. At the bottom of the jet bridge, 2 federal air marshals are waiting. They're not there for Iris. The taller one approaches Cassius as he exits. "Mr. Whitmore, we need to speak with you about interfering with flight crew operations during an emergency. Several passengers have filed complaints." Cassius's face goes white. I was scared. "Sir, you physically prevented a qualified pilot from accessing the cockpit during a medical emergency. That's a federal offense. You'll need to come with us." Desmond Carver watches his friend being led away, saying nothing. There's nothing to say. Gianna's apology post has 40,000 shares in an hour, but the comments aren't kind. "You only apologized because you got caught. Performative guilt. Delete your account. She almost died and you were worried about content." Gianna sits in the terminal scrolling, crying. Her influencer career built on aesthetics and judgment is imploding in real time. Her phone buzzes, a DM from someone she doesn't know. "I was on that flight, row 16. You filmed me crying. I don't forgive you, but if you actually want to change, prove it. Do better." Gianna stares at the message for a long time. Then she opens her settings and deactivates her account. Colonel Cross walks with Iris through the terminal. Military personnel salute as they pass. Civilians stare. "Iris, the Pentagon's been calling since we confirmed your identity. They want you back. Training command. Test pilot program. Your choice of assignment." Iris stops walking. "I was medically discharged for a reason, sir. And tonight you proved that discharge was a mistake." Cross hands her a folder. "New medical review standards. Based on operational performance, not just physical metrics. You'd be the first pilot reinstated under the new criteria." Iris opens the folder. Official letterhead. Department of Defense seal. She closes it. "I need time." "Take all you need." The offer stands. In the terminal, Dr. Felicity Graves approaches with Captain Davis's wife, who flew in from Denver. You saved my husband's life, Mrs. Davis says, gripping Iris's hands. The doctors say he wouldn't have survived another 20 minutes. He's strong, Iris says. He'll recover. Dr. Graves pulls Iris aside. I'm writing this up for the Journal of Aviation Medicine. Your case proves that current neurological discharge standards are eliminating functional pilots. Can I cite you? Iris hesitates, then nods. If it helps someone else keep flying. 3 weeks later, the Air Force announces a comprehensive review of medical discharge criteria. The press release mentions recent operational successes by previously discharged personnel. Iris's name isn't in it, but everyone in the aviation community knows. Flight schools start teaching her single-engine approach as a case study. The Peterson landing becomes shorthand for doing the impossible with nothing left to lose. And in a C-130 squadron in Germany, a crew chief paints new nose art on a transport plane, Wraith's Gift. Below it, in smaller letters, she brought us home. Now she's brought herself home too. 6 weeks later. Iris sits in a small classroom at Boise State Community College, Idaho. 20 students, mostly veterans, a few civilians chasing dreams they can't afford at bigger schools. She's teaching Aviation Safety 201. Today's topic, emergency decision-making. Pop quiz, she says, writing on the whiteboard. You're flying single engine, fuel's critical, weather's below minimums, crosswinds gusting 50 knots. What do you do? A young veteran in the back army discharged after an IED took his left leg below the knee, raises his hand. You landed anyway, because quitting isn't an option. Iris smiles. Close. But the real answer is, you assess what you can control, and you don't waste energy on what you can't. The wind can't control it. The fuel. It is what it is. But your hand's on the yoke. That's yours. She holds up her right hand. It trembles, visibly. I have nerve damage. Permanent. The Air Force said it made me unfit to fly. They were wrong. Not because the damage doesn't exist, it does. But because flying isn't about perfection. It's about adaptation. The students are silent, listening. You don't need perfect hands to be a perfect pilot. You need a perfect decision when everything else is falling apart. After class, the young Army vet approaches. Ma'am, I wanted to fly before I got hurt. I thought losing my leg meant losing that dream. Iris looks at him. You can still fly. It'll be harder. You'll have to prove yourself twice as much. But if you want it, really want it, you'll find a way. He nods, eyes wet. Thank you. That night, Iris sits on the porch of her small rental house. The Pentagon folder is on the table beside her, unopened for 6 weeks. She picks it up, runs her fingers over the seal, then sets it down again. Not tonight, maybe tomorrow, maybe never. For now, she's exactly where she needs to be, teaching kids who were told they weren't good enough, proving that the people society overlooks are often the ones who save it. Her phone buzzes, a text from Rory Bennett. Just got promoted to captain. Thank you for everything. You saved more than lives that night. Iris smiles, types back. You were already a captain. You just didn't know it yet. She puts the phone down, looks up at the stars. Somewhere above her, planes are flying. Pilots are navigating storms. People are being underestimated. And tomorrow she'll teach another class. Because the sky doesn't care what you look like. It only cares if you can fly.